Great memories for sure. And one time, here's my favorite, I won't take up too much time, but I'm asleep on this big, it's called a Super Connie, it's called a constellation, and it was enormous. And I was sound asleep, and somebody comes and says, Bob would like you to come up. He has a ship that has, the boys haven't been home. And it was Christmas Eve. And I went, oh, okay. And I went up into the cockpit. And they radioed down, and the Admiral said, just a minute, I'm going to pipe you through. My men are asleep, but they'd like to hear from you. So he piped me through, and I woke them all up. And I said, hi, I know you're sleeping down there. I just want you to know we're thinking about you, and we love you, and you know, I could just picture us, and I just pictured them waking up. And I started to sing, have yourself a merry little Christmas. And it was a great moment for me. I cried, Bob cried, and here we were in the sky over an ocean that was so vast in a place I had never been. And there were 2,700 young men on this ship. And when I got home, the best part of it was I heard from a lot of those young people over the years that said, I was in my bunk and you woke me up Christmas Eve. That's what I remember about show business.
Great story. Piper, you have one daughter. Would you tell us about your daughter?
Oh, she would hate me if I talked about it.
Oh, do it, do it.
She's wonderful. She's a wonderful girl. She lives in Oregon, and she's terrific.
And what does she do?
None of your business.
I like you. You tell me what it is.
Mother, how can you do that?
Well, she'll never know. Your lips are sealed, right? Connie, you have two beautiful daughters. Tell us about them.
I have two girls, two wonderful son-in-laws, thank God. And I have 8 grandchildren, and my oldest grandson, who just turned 26, they're having a baby soon, so I'm going to be a great grandmother.
Wow. Connie Stevens, a great grandmother. And where do they both live?
They live in Los Angeles. I, a while ago, moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I live in a big log house up there, with a lot of animals around, a herd of elk, about 400, and about a big 1,600-pound moose who just had babies this summer. And they usually charge you, but I think she likes me, because when she sees me, she comes around and brings the babies. But I adore my family. I'm very family-oriented, and I'm an Italian girl, and I was raised that way, and I am the matriarch these days. It's great, because the more, just keep them coming, girls. Just keep them coming.
Great. What we'd like to do in the next few minutes, everybody, is open up a question and answer period to you folks. If you will raise your hand and tell us who you will address the question to, then what I will do, gang, especially for the folks in the back, I'll repeat the question. This young lady right here, yes.
Hi, I'm Jack from the National Capital Radio and Television Museum, and I'd like to ask both Connie and Piper if you could have one piece of work that represents you, whether it's overlooked or most popular or personal, something that you'd like to put in the museum, what would it be?
Great question. This question is addressed to both Piper and Connie. If you had one thing that you'd like to kind of be remembered for your greatest piece of work, did I phrase it right?
Yeah,
something to be in a museum that, what would you pick? Piper?
Oh, I have to think about it. I tried a lot of things, and I tried to be a sculptor, and I tried to be a supreme baker, and I'd have to think about that.
Okay, Connie?
I'd have to go back to the military, and you know, it isn't always the. I wish I had a body of work that could even compare or compete with this, but I was in, I guess, Cameron Bay, and we were in Vietnam, and walked out there and looked at young people hanging from telephone poles and trees. And there were 40,000 young people there, and one of the boys, or a couple of them, said, "What's the president doing about getting us out of here?" to Bob. And he said, I don't know, what do you think, Connie? And that threw me for a while. And I looked at them and I said, you know what, it's Christmas. And we're all Americans and we're all here today together. The most important thing to me is being able to share this moment, because we'll never all be in the same place again. And I sang Silent Night with no music, and within a minute less, 40,000 young people were standing and singing Silent Night, and it was as quiet you could hear it, but in all of these voices, you could just hear it echoing, 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 and I thought, thank you God, I will never feel this feeling again. And that's as good as it gets, to be that close to another human being and have them know how you're feeling, and they're feeling it back. You know, they're giving it back to you. That was as good as it got for me.
Dynamite story.
Question for
Piper?
Piper Laurie. There's another great actor you worked with in The Hustler, Jackie Gleason. What was that like working with?
The question is, in The Hustler, Piper worked with Jackie Gleason. What was he like?
Well, and I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I never met him. The night before we were to start shooting, Robert Russell, the director, walked me over to Ames Pool Hall to meet him, and he had quit early for the day. So we started shooting the next day, but we always shot in completely different locations. And I never got to meet him, and I was invited to a memorial service for him and asked to speak to tell some anecdote. It's incredible, but that's what happens in movies.
He truly was the great one. Yes, in back, gentleman in the back with your hand raised. Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies. You were part of the golden era. What is your opinion of movies and television today?
I'll address that to both ladies. What is your impression of today's television? Connie?
Me? Well, television is astounding. They're doing incredible work. The actors are, some of them are brilliant. We have very many English people working on television today. And when you were a young actress, it seemed like they had a little tiny bit more respect. The Peter O'Tooles and the Gielguds and so forth, and it sort of carried over into the generation. As far as the golden era, though, I'm sorry, but I personally don't feel from the young actors, even though they're as good as they are, the star quality that Piper had, that June Allison had, Ava Gardner, who was my personal favorite at the time. They had something that is just not around, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know whether it was a mindset or whether they were just super special.
That they were. Piper, same question. How do you feel about today's stars?
I think there's wonderful dramedy on cable and Netflix and all of those shows. And I'm constantly astounded at how gifted so many young actors and actresses are. I don't know where it comes from so young. Without experience, I don't know. I think there are a few out there that are extraordinary.
Sir, for Connie?
Do you keep in contact with anybody from Hawaii,
You go first. They were doing our old scripts, you know.
The question is, does Connie keep in contact with anyone from Hawaiian Eye?
Well, I did. And those boys were like brothers to me. I always worked with men, even with George Burns, it was all men. I get along pretty good with them, and the only one now is Bobby Conrad, who is like my very own brother, but we just recently lost Ponce, and we lost Grant Williams, and we lost Troy, and Anthony Isley. They're gone, and for different various reasons, and I'm sad because every Christmas we were all together at different times. I'm sorry? Ed Burns, I see him every now and then. But I wasn't as close to Eddie as I was to my own guys.
Nice. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask, Connie, you worked with Jack Benny.
The question is, Connie, you've worked with Jack Benny. My personal favorite, your memories of working with Jack Benny.
Well, he was a lot like, the rest of the guys loved George Burns. I never heard repartee like that between the two of them. I worked in England with Jack Benny many times, and we would stay at a certain hotel, and then where we shot was at least an hour away. So I had the good fortune of hanging out with him. And we'd stop for breakfast, and we'd laugh, and he'd tell me stories, and I would tell him what I was up to, who I was dating, and it was great. They have something special. The comedians, Buddy Hackett, those were my pals. Red Buttons, Milton Berle, all those guys. I worked with them in nightclubs, and then I worked with them on different television shows, Dom DeLuise, and I must say I prefer doing all of that because you laughed a lot, and you didn't take life seriously, and consequently, you worked a lot harder, to keep up with them. As a matter of fact, I loved working with them so much, I stayed in England and worked with an English company that did vaudeville. And that was more fun because all of the old English comics would drag me around to these little theaters all over England, and they'd say that, and I'd go out on the stage and I'd say that line, and it'd get a big laugh, and it was so fun to learn the different parts of what made people laugh, and how to be loose and just be natural.
Thank you. Gentleman right there in the middle of the room. Yes, sir.
Piper, you did a guest spot on ER where you played George Clooney's mother, and there was nothing hotter on television than ER. I was wondering how you created a character in, one of the episodes that has this entire backstory, and what was it like to work with Clooney?
Let me repeat the question. On ER, you played George Clooney's mother. What was it like working both with the show ER and playing Clooney's mother?
Oh, well, George Clooney wasn't yet a big star. He certainly was on television. I got all ready in makeup and hair and taken to the set. There's a crowd of people sitting in a restaurant where me, the mother, would have dinner with my son George. And George had not yet arrived at set, and I was taken to the table, and I thought, this kid, he's late. And then I saw him at the other end of the room, chatting with the crew and people, and just clowning, having a good time. I thought, And his jaw was so chiseled. I don't like this kid. And then he came over finally and he sat down, and just in 2 seconds I was totally charmed. And he was a wonderful actor, and I really enjoyed working with him, and I got to do another show with him. And I think it could have continued, except that the actor who was hired to play my ex-husband wanted more money, and so they dropped that whole storyline. And I was sad about that.
Unfortunately. Person way back there in the cheaper seats, yes, I see your hand raised. Yell it out, and then I'll repeat the question.
Question for Piper Laurie.
For Piper.
Did you enjoy working with Rory Calhoun?
Did you enjoy working with Rory Calhoun?
Yes, we used to, in those days I had so little respect for the parts I was playing. I was bored in between, there was nothing to think about. So we used to play catch, just to keep ourselves occupied. And, but he was delightful, a nice guy. He was very charming.
Yes, sir, over here.
This is for both ladies. Is there ever one role you want to play yourself?
Nice question. This is for both ladies. Was there ever a role that you both missed that you had wanted to play? Connie?
Actually, yes. In The Godfather, I had the Diane Keaton role for a while. And what happened was they went with Diane because he did not want people who were popular at the time to be in the film. He wanted all young people because he thought that I would take too much attention away from that particular character. And I cried my eyes out at the time, and now that I have directed my own film, I know exactly what he was talking about.
Piper, same question?
I think there were probably a lot of parts. Somebody mentioned it today. Elmer Gantry. Shirley Jones, in her book, which I've not read, but she said, and she told me too recently, because I played with her son in a musical in Santa Barbara. I did a little night music about 6 months ago. And Patrick, her eldest son, was one of the leading characters. So I had an occasion to meet her. And she said that the director of the movie, Richard Brooks, did not want her. He wanted me. And I had met with them in Lancaster. But I was told, that Lancaster didn't want me. So you never know about those things.
Would you have taken the part?
Pardon?
Would you have taken the part?
Would you have taken the part if it were offered to you?
Yeah, it was a terrific part. It was a foolproof part.
Folks, in the interest of time, we have one more question. Time for one more. Sir with the hat, yes.
Okay, this is for both of the ladies. Has either of y'all played in any westerns, in regular movie westerns or TV parts in westerns?
Sir, you sound like Gabby Hayes. Could you repeat the question, please?
Any of the two ladies
Yep.
ever played in westerns?
Have either one of you ever done a Western movie or television show, either one, sir? Connie?
I was in Sugarfoot with a guy by the name of Will Hutchins. Cute.
Good
I was
guy.
in Cheyenne with Clint Walker. What else? Maverick with Jimmy Garner. My favorite.
Everybody loved him. Loved him. Piper, same question?
I did Dawn at Socorro and Smoke Signal with Dana Andrews. And I think there was another, but I don't know if you classical high Mississippi gambler is a Western or not. It was a Southern.
Well, gang, I tell you, I really hate for this to end. Ma'am, if you ask me in a nice way and you buy me a drink in the bar. Yes, all right, dear. One last question. The question, very simply, is did you and Troy Donahue ever get along? Did I rephrase that? Memories of Troy.
Memories of Troy. Did I love him? I did love him. He became like my brother. He was a bad boy sometimes. He would be late, he wouldn't know his lines, and he was a spoiled young thing until Carl Malden told him, set him straight. He never did it again and apologized to each and every one of us. My daughter Jolie is an astounding singer, and she was doing cabaret. She did it for 2 years on Broadway and what have you. And she did it in San Francisco. Hadn't seen Troy for a while. And I went to the theater, and who's sitting next to me? Troy and his wife. And he kept looking at Jolie, and he kept squeezing my hand. And he turned around and looked at me, and he was crying. Literally crying. He said, I couldn't be more proud if she were my own. And I thought to myself, we really have been very, very close over the years. And we started hanging out a little bit more, and I got to see a lot more of him. And I'm going to have to leave you with a sad note here, is that I came back to LA not too long after that, and the phone rang, and it was his wife saying, I can't wake him up, what should I do? And I said, I'll meet you at St. John's Hospital. And I was with Troy when he passed. Yeah. So I was glad, and it was funny when I walked in, I just burst right into the ER, and he said to me, oh my God, like that. And I said, don't blow my cover. I told him I was your sister. He said, the hell with that. Tell him who you really are. I'll get better service. And he was very brave and did his best.
Your daughter Jolie, was she named after Al Jolson by any chance?
No. Eddie would like to think that, but no.
She just like the name.
I read it in a French magazine. Jolie.
Julie. You two ladies have been...
I have to say something before we finish.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know this, but Connie directed me in a movie not that long ago. She's a wonderful director.
What was the movie? What was the name of the movie?
It's Saving Grace B. Jones. And I would just like to say that it was my first film that I wrote and directed, and I thought, oh, who could just bring this home for me? And there have always been two actresses that had a demeanor to me that I wanted to be close to. One was Shelley Winters, and the other one was Piper Laurie. And she graciously came. She was so astounding in the film. She opens up her mouth to speak in the film, and you get it. You get it immediately. There's everything she does, body language, her eyes, how she speaks to another actor, how she takes her time. You just got to see the film. She's just wonderful in it, and gets the biggest laugh in the movie. Did you know that, Piper?
No.
You did.
I'm always afraid to look at myself, so it takes me a while to get around to it.
Well, I brought one for you.
Terrific. Let me ask you all a question. What did you think of these two fabulous players? Thank you, Piper. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a delightful